Mobilisation and flexibility is important for all cyclists when it comes to improving your range of movement on the bike and aiding recovery too. Here are the experts from British Cycling to show you through some exercises that will help your trunk and lower body.
What is mobility?
So we like to talk about mobility in terms of degrees of freedom. That's the range of movement or degrees of freedom that you have at each joint, say your ankle joint, your knee joint and your hip joint. And if any of those are compromised and you have less range of movement or degrees of freedom, that can basically mean that you don't perform the activity very well, don't have as much power, or you may be susceptible to injury.
A peanut is a really nice way to work into areas of your upper back, as you can apply specific pressure on either side of your spine. This can be easily done yourself at home by taping 2 tennis balls together. We're going to use a peanut to free up Jack's upper back. So we're going to ask him to lie back onto the peanut, approximately in between his shoulder blades, and the balls are going to sit either side of the spine, so they're not applying any pressure on his spine, but the muscles either side, okay? So just roll back from there. And from there, we're going to ask Jack just to roll gently up and down, focusing on that area on the upper back where his ribs are. If you get to a particularly tight spot, ask Jack to keep still. If needs be, you can put something underneath the head to relax the neck. And in that position, he's going to take a deep breath in. And as he breathes out, we ask him just to compress the ribs down. And you're going to spend 3 breaths on each spot where you find some restriction.
Why is it so important that cyclists focus on their backs?
Okay, so whilst you're on the bike, particularly for a long ride, your spine's going to spend a long time in a flexed position, and that repeated over time can then lead to numerous problems and stiffness in your upper and lower back. After using the peanut to mobilise the thoracic spine, we're now going to work into some rotation to try and build on that movement we've generated. So I'm going to ask Jack to lie onto his side with a foam roller between the legs. This basically fixes his hip position and isolates the movement now to his upper back. Take both arms out in front of you. And from there, you're going to twist, lifting the top arm up and over. Follow it with your eyes. Come to a point where you feel comfortable and you feel you're working just to that point of resistance, but not into it. And then come back. And you're going to do that 5 to 6 times and repeat it on the other side.
Now moving on to the more obvious part of the body associated with cycling, the legs. What else should we be focusing on there?
Yeah, legs take a huge amount of stress with cycling, okay? And the more you do, the more work they have to do, particularly the front of the legs, the quads. And if you don't keep on top of looking after those, then you are likely to develop sort of knee problems, which will then affect sort of your ability to train. I'm going to ask Jack to pop his left leg onto the bench. In this position, really, really important that he keeps an upright spine, okay? So focus on lifting the chest in this position. And for some people that might be sufficient. You might already feel a stretch through your hamstring. If you want to increase it, then we'll ask Jack just to bend the right knee, but maintaining that upright position through the spine. Flexing here will compromise the back in this position. And you can hold that position for 30 to 60 seconds, depending on how you feel. As it eases off, we might ask you to drop a little bit further if you can. We're going to use the bench and place Jack's leg onto that to wind up the leg into external rotation. So you're going to ideally target to get your shin bone in contact with the bench in this case, or a chair, or the arm of a sofa you might use at home. And to make sure you keep your trunk upright, lift through your chest, and if you want to increase the stretch, you can just lower more through the hips, okay? Depending on how you feel in that position, you can stay there for 30 to 60 seconds, just allowing the stretch to free up the hip and dropping a little bit deeper as you feel you can.
I think traditionally people think about mobility work as just a stretching routine, but what we like to talk here about British Cycling and many other groups around the world now is more about freeing structures off and stretching them. So the two go hand in hand. So it'd be like, number one, using an implement to try and free up a tissue, say it'd be a foam roller, trigger point ball or something like that, and then gaining the range of movement in that particular muscle or joint range.
A trigger point ball is more effective to work into specific areas such as your glutes and really helpful in addition to a foam roller. A tennis ball will do the job well too, although if you want something firmer, a hockey ball is a good alternative. The muscle group we find the most effective to help the lower back is the gluteals, okay, so the buttock muscles. And to free those up, we're going to use a trigger point ball because it's a bit more specific than a foam roller. Jack's going to place the trigger point ball under one buttock and he's going to cross that leg over his opposite, resting the ankle on the knee. And from there, he can sit still or he can roll around, finding specific tight points within that muscle. When he gets to a tight spot, you might want to stay on it, spend a bit of time there and breathe through until it frees up. And you can spend up to a minute on each side working through the tight spots.
Click up here for British Cycling strength exercises or down here for the British Cycling 20-minute warm-up.